Hello fellow travelers, Mark here with Wolters World, and we're in Avignon, France, one of my favorite places to come to in France. We're having a great time here from the very north up by the Belgian border all the way down here to the south in Avignon and heading to Nice next. What I thought I'd give you guys today are some of the differences between the United States and France. And this is kind of like for US tourists that are coming to France, some things you should know before you come, okay? So let's get started. Now, the first thing you need to know is when you come to France, French people, not a lot of people do speak English when you are here, so you do need to know some French before you come. Now, you don't have to be fluent and know the service isn't as bad as you hear it is, but you do need to know some basic French, whether it is l'addition, like asking for the bill or other things. Having a basic knowledge of French will make a big difference because the people actually are very nice, but they don't speak a lot of English. Now, having said that, when you do go to tourist places like Paris or here in Avignon, you will find people that do speak English, so you will be okay. But when you're on the streets and you're going to the shops and some of the smaller cafes and restaurants, sometimes French is going to be actually a requirement to get anything done. So just be prepared for that, okay? So that's the first thing. You need to know French. And it's like the US. When you come to the US, you have to know English because not a lot of people know other languages. Young people, yes, some do speak English pretty well here in France, but in general, it's best to know some French before you come. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is service. Now, in the US, we get this idea that French people hate Americans and they're all snobs and they have horrible service. That is the farthest thing from the truth. Now, if you're going to have service like that, that'll happen in Paris. But that happens to basically in any city where there's tons of tourists that come. In Paris, I believe, is the most visited city in the world. So yes, you do have bad service there sometimes, but in all of France, it's not like that. The people are fantastic and the service is very friendly and they will help you choose the right things and all kinds of stuff. So be prepared for a little bit of helpfulness if you're not sure what you want. Now, when you're looking at the service, one thing you should know is when you order your food and you get your bill, the taxes are already included, as is the service. So there is no tipping in France. You do not tip in France, okay? 15% is already added to the bill. So if you pay with a credit card, usually there's not even a place to put a tip. But if you do want to leave a few extra euros, maybe about 5%, so €1 for every 20 euros of your bill, put it in cash on the table or give it to your server directly. Otherwise, most likely they're not going to get it. Now, another thing when you look at is service is when you go to restaurants, one thing you need to realize is you need to make sure you're ready to order, so you order your food right away because it does take time to prepare this fantastic food here. But also when you're done eating, okay? In the US, your plate's finished, so people expect, oh, my plate's done. They should know I'm ready to leave. No, in France, you stay at the restaurant, you stay at the cafe for a long time, talking and chatting, enjoying the wind in your hair, obviously, all these kind of things. And so what you really need to do is make sure you say, pardon, l'addition, s'il vous plaît. L'addition is the bill. Make sure you ask for the bill, because I've seen tourists in Paris, here in Avignon, and Nimes, and other places that actually start getting upset because they're like, why aren't they bringing me my bill? Well, here in France, you got to remember, you need to ask for your bill, l'addition. Otherwise, they'll just sit there for a while, and yes, you can make the international sign, and you can pay that way. Now, if we look at paying, cash is preferred here in France, but you can use your credit card most everywhere. But I will say, if your credit card does not have that little chip in it, it might be hard to use like at train stations or at gas stations and stuff like that. So make sure if you don't have one of the new cards with a chip in it, ask your bank or your credit card company for a new chip with the little microchip in it, and then you can pay everywhere. Otherwise, you're going to be using more cash. Now, in terms of getting money here, there are ATMs everywhere you go, so there's no problem there. The ATM is in French and in English, so hey, perfect little helpfulness there. And when you ask for your money, sometimes they'll ask it if you want it taken out in euros or dollars. I recommend just saying the euros, because then your bank will probably give you a better rate than whatever the ATM says. Okay? Also, when you're taking out money from the ATM, take out a larger amount. Don't just take out 100 euros here and there, because you do get charged a fee at your home bank or maybe at the bank you're going to. So it's better just to take out a lump sum. Now, I'm not saying take out thousands, but take out 400 euros or 300 euros at a time so you don't get charged with a lot more fees. Now, if you look at the money they use here in France, yes, they do use the euro. And the euro, it comes in multiple bills. They have a 500 euro bill, a 200 euro bill, a 100 euro bill, a 50 euro bill, 20 euro bill, €10 bill and a €5 bill. And the big difference than in the US is that you actually have coins that actually matter here. So you have a €2 coin. So in end of 2014, beginning of 2015, one coin is worth over $2.50. Okay, so there's a €2 coin, a €1 coin, a 50-cent coin, a 20-cent coin, 10-cent coin, 5, 2, and 1, and you'll get different. One side will have the number and the other side will be different depending on the countries you go to. So just know that that's there, but your coins will be worth something here, so don't just give them away to beggars and things like that. Now, that's the next thing I want to talk about in terms of things you might notice here in France is you will see a lot of beggars. Okay, not all of them are French, but there are a lot of beggars here. Whether you're in France or Avignon or La Rochelle, you do see them, and you'll be surprised that, wait, there's actually quite a few more children begging. So what I recommend is stay away from them. Do not give the beggars any money. Also, if people come up to you and they want you to sign something, whether it's for world peace or whatever, do not sign it, because that's one of the big things that people do to pickpocket you and see if you're worth robbing. So just make sure someone comes up with a little clipboard and says, please sign, you say, non merci, no thank you, okay, and shoo them away. Now the next thing I want to talk about are hotels. Now, hotels in France, your rooms are going to be smaller than in the US, and your beds, if you get a double room, will most likely be 2 single beds pushed together, so get ready for that little crack in the middle. If you are coming with your family and you have 3 or 4 kids, you are going to need to get multiple rooms. What I recommend is rent an apartment. France has a lot of apartment rentals that actually work much better than the hotels. We've spent time in an apartment in Paris, an apartment here in Avignon. It makes a big difference, so you might want to check that out. And we do have a video, 5 things you love and hate about rental apartments in Europe, to really give you some more tips on that. Now, some other things, kind of everyday kind of stuff. Now, the water here in France, you can drink, and when you go to restaurants, they'll put a bottle of water on your table. Usually it's tap water. You can buy bottled water as well, but the tap water is fine here, no problem. If you're looking at the toilets, now the toilets here are a little different, because sometimes you'll have a second toilet on the side. That's called a bidet, and that shoots water up to clean your behind. If you don't know how it works, well, have some fun trying, but just stay away from it, okay? But one thing you'll see with the toilets is the flusher. There'll be 2 buttons, okay? One might have 2 dots, and one has 1 dot, or one is big, one is little. The big one, that is for number 2, let's say, and the one little dot is just you have to pee to flush that down. Now, some other things you might need to know is if you're traveling around, you're going to have your phones, your cameras, your laptops. The plugs here in France are just like everywhere else in mainland Europe. You have the 2 circle plugs that go in, okay? Whereas in the US, you have the 2 straight plugs, okay? So that's one difference there. If you have your laptop or phone, they already have a converter. All you need is that adapter thing that changes it from this to this, okay? Otherwise, you're gonna be fine. Your curling irons and stuff like that, they're not gonna survive, so don't bother bringing them. Buy a €5 or €10 one here at the local electronics store, and you'll be okay. Now, let's look at the phones when you're gonna call. Now, if you're in Europe, what I recommend is you're gonna use your mobile phone, get a data package before you come, because it can save you a lot of money. And if you're gonna be calling numbers in France from your US phone, when you dial internationally, you're gonna put a plus, okay? Because in Europe, if you want an international code, it's 00. If you want an international code in the US, it's 011. However, if you have a mobile phone, everywhere you just put a plus in front of it, that gives you international. And the international code for France is 33. Now, if you get a domestic phone number somewhere in France, there might be like a 0 in front of it, like 09 for Paris. If you're calling from your mobile phone, you put your plus 33, you drop out that 0, and then put 9 and then the number, okay, to help you out there. Now, some other things you need to know, let's say about transport, getting around France. Now, one thing you should know is you're going to do a lot of walking in France, and there are a lot of cobblestones and dirt, so make sure you're ready. So start doing some walking, around your neighborhood before you come to get yourself ready for it, because otherwise you're going to have some shin splints and all kinds of stuff. One of the great things about France, though, is the public transportation is fantastic. Buses, trains, all kinds of stuff really work very well and go all over the country, so it's very easy to do public transport. Now, one thing you need to know, if you're taking the TGV, the fast trains, okay, you need to make sure you have a reservation, because your Eurail passes and Interrail passes will not work because you still have to have a reservation. So go pick up that reservations for the TGV. Other things with public transport, if you have a normal train ticket, you got to make sure that you stamp it at the little yellow machines before you get on the train, otherwise you can get a pretty big fine, so pay attention to that. Now, if you're going to be renting a car to get around France, which is really cool here in Provence or the Loire Valley, remember the cars here are much smaller, and so the trunks are smaller, so you need to pack accordingly, so have smaller suitcases, otherwise you're not going to be able to fit all your people and all your luggage, okay? Now, another thing that is really cool about coming to France is they really do take care of your kids here, so you'll have a lot of menu des enfants, like kids menu stuff. Kids are free, under 10 and under 8 are free pretty much anywhere in France for the sites and all kinds of stuff. The Louvre, or here in Avignon at the Palace of the Popes, all kinds of stuff like that. And they really do help out with the kids, and it is kind of a cool thing that way. And the last thing I want to warn you about are the taxis when you're here. Now, taxis in France are notorious for, let's say, not necessarily the best service or the most trustworthy guys out there. Now, I won't lie to you, I haven't had too many problems in France with the taxis, and a lot of that comes down to if you speak a little French and you have an idea where you're going, you're not going to have any problems. But I know in the south of France, there's in Paris as well, if you don't know where you're going, sometimes they'll take you for a ride. So really pay attention. So talk to your hotel about how much it should cost from the train station or the airport to your hotel, so you have a rough idea what you should be paying, and don't have a problem saying, hey, this isn't right, okay, and making a fuss about it. Anyway, I hope that helped you get ready for France. It is a fantastic place. You really should come here. We got other cool videos, 5 things you love and hate about France, 10 things that'll shock you about coming to France, all on our website at woltersworld.com. We're also on Twitter and Facebook, and we really appreciate your likes and subscriptions. And if you have any questions or any other things you think people should know before they come to France, put in the comments section below. We really appreciate it. And au revoir from Avignon, France. Bye.